I sent my mom $1,350 a month for 12 years. Then she used my name to buy a $59,000 SUV. Hi, I'm Daniel, 36, and last week my mother tried to buy a $59,000 SUV using my identity. Again, it all started with a Facebook post. I was outside in freezing wind, trying to wedge an open house sign into a snowbank off West 38th when my phone buzzed. A public post from my mom. Caption: praying for my son who's forgotten where he came from. No tags. No context. Just a prayer request weaponized as a guilt grenade. I didn't even need to open the comments to know they were already stacking. Aunt Regina with her trademark, "Some kids don't appreciate their blessings." My cousin Mallory, "You're in my heart." Aunt Cindy, random church lady from her Wednesday night group, "He'll come back around." They always do. Cindy is my mom. And in case the entire neighborhood hadn't figured it out from the post, I was her son, the one who had apparently forsaken his roots by refusing to co-sign her fourth car loan in 7 years. But I didn't respond. Not to the post, not to the comments, not even to the flood of texts that followed. I just opened my payroll portal, clicked into the direct deposit screen, and after 12 years of sending $1,350 a month straight into her household account, I changed it. Immediately. By Friday morning, her mortgage day, that transfer wasn't coming. And the thing is, I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because the last straw had finally snapped. The night before, in the same cramped kitchen I used to do homework in, Mom had slid a printout across the table. It was from Kingman Chevy on Broadview, a 2026 Suburban. The monthly payment, $879.41, was highlighted in pink. I stared at it like it was a prank. "Just co-sign," she said, like she was asking me to pass the salt. "It's safer than the last one." I blinked. "Mom, this is your fourth car since 2019. She did the face. The one that's supposed to mean, "Don't start." "It's not like that," she said, already defensive. "This one's reliable. And I deserve something decent." "I'm not doing it," I said calmly. Realtor calm. Her eyes welled instantly, weaponized in under 5 seconds. "After everything I've done for you." I matched her stare. "And I've done a lot for you, too." That's when she leaned in and dropped the line that always comes when I say no. "So you're just going to let me struggle?" "You're not struggling," I said. "You're choosing." Her face changed like I slapped her. "Get out," she whispered. So I did. I grabbed my coat, my keys, and my folder of contracts and comps, and left. The next morning, she turned my boundary into a digital prayer vigil. And I turned off the tap. Because love doesn't mean subsidizing someone else's financial chaos indefinitely. This was the first step, and it was long overdue. By the time Friday morning rolled around, I already knew what was coming. I had my laptop open, coffee in hand, calendar full of showings, and a mental checklist ready for emotional fallout. At 7:18 a.m., right on schedule, I got the first alert from Key First Bank. Transaction failed. Mortgage payment declined. Account ending in 0421. I stared at it like I was reading a stranger's obituary. For the last 12 years, I'd been the invisible scaffolding behind my mom's life. Mortgage? Me. Utilities? Me. Even groceries half the time, unless you count the Uber Eats steakhouse orders she claimed were just once in a while. The $1,350 I sent monthly didn't just help. It was the reason nothing bounced. But when I saw that decline notice, I didn't flinch. At 7:32, my phone rang. It was her. I didn't answer. At 7:35, she texted, "Mortgage didn't go through. Call me now." At 7:36, "Now, Daniel. This isn't funny." At 7:39, "You're seriously doing this?" Yes. Yes, I was. I didn't ghost her to be cold. I was just done playing IT support for a disaster she created and refused to admit was happening. I needed to see what she did when I wasn't the safety net. She didn't wait long. At 9:03, Aunt Regina called. I answered, because Regina doesn't call unless someone's dying or already buried. "Daniel," she said, all breathy like she'd jogged to the phone. "Your mother is in tears." "I'm aware." "She's scared." I glanced at my screen. I had the Key First Bills account open. I was scrolling through 11 years of transfers like they were Spotify royalty statements. Every first of the month. $1,350. January. February. March. Like clockwork. Like rent. "She's not scared," I said. "She's mad." Regina sniffed. She just wants to keep her home. She wants to buy a Suburban. Silence. Then, she said you refused to help. I did. For the fourth time. Regina softened her tone, which always means she's about to guilt trip you using Bible verses. Family helps, Daniel. There it was. The line. The one we all grew up hearing. Family helps. No matter how much. No matter how reckless. I've been helping, I said. For 12 years. Regina didn't respond. I pictured her blinking slowly, trying to tally it in her head, and deciding it still didn't count if Mom was crying. I have to get to a showing, I said and hung up before she could pivot to emotional blackmail. By noon, the Facebook post had cracked 84 likes and a dozen more comments. Church lady again. God sees the heart. My old soccer coach. Sad what some kids become. And then came the kicker. Mallory, my cousin. You don't treat your mother like that. Especially not someone as giving as Aunt Cindy. Giving? Cindy once demanded I Venmo her $300 because her debit card got declined at Costco and she couldn't live without her collagen supplements. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a new folder on my laptop. I titled it Cindy Receipts. Screenshots, bank statements, loan documents. Every time I had bent backwards while she called it help, and I called it obligation dressed as love. It was time to keep records. Not to get revenge. To protect myself. I didn't expect her to show up at my open house. But there she was, Saturday afternoon, 1:44 p.m., striding up the walkway in her Sunday best, and a scowl that could freeze fire. I spotted her through the bay window right as I was explaining the benefits of radiant floor heating to a young couple from Lakewood. Oh no, I muttered. Something wrong? The husband asked. Just some. Surprise foot traffic. I met her at the door before she could swing it open like she owned the place. Mom, I said, keeping my tone in that perfect realtor register. Calm, firm, and 1 octave away from panic. You can't be here. She brushed past me anyway. Are you really doing this? To me? She said, loud enough for the couple to hear. I smiled like it was a scene from a sitcom. We can talk later. She ignored that. My mortgage didn't go through because of you, Daniel. I felt my ears burn. Not from guilt. From humiliation. My client's wife raised her eyebrows. My phone buzzed on the table behind me, probably another Zillow inquiry. And here was my mother, turning a $529,000 tutor revival into a therapy session with witnesses. I'm working, I hissed through my teeth. You need to leave. Her eyes filled with tears on cue. I raised you better than this. No, I said quietly. You raised me to pay your bills. Her face snapped to blank. Then righteous. You think you're better than your own mother now? I didn't respond. I just stepped between her and the prospective buyers, gave them a practiced apology smile, and said, please give me 1 moment. Then I turned back to her and said, louder than I needed to, if you don't leave, I'm calling the police. Her mouth opened like I'd slapped her. You wouldn't, she whispered. Try me, I said. She hesitated, looked at the couple, who were now actively pretending to read the fireplace brochure like their lives depended on it. Then she turned and stormed out, muttering something about how money changes people. Once she was gone, I checked my phone. 2 more missed calls from Aunt Regina. A new text from Mallory. Wow, calling the cops on your own mom. But it wasn't even that moment that did it. It was what happened later that night. 9:18 p.m. My phone buzzed again. Only this time it was a fraud alert. New credit inquiry detected. I froze. Tapped the notification. Auto loan application filed. Kingman Chevrolet, Cleveland, Ohio. Applicant, Daniel M. I stood in my kitchen, phone shaking in my hand, as my stomach dropped straight through the tile floor. I hadn't applied for any loan, but I knew who had. My mother wasn't just trying to guilt trip me anymore. She was impersonating me. And this time, I was done being quiet. I stared at the screen like it might change if I blinked enough times. But nope. My name. My social. My old address in Parma. The application had been submitted at 8:56 p.m. I was mid-bite of leftover Chinese when it went through. My mouth went dry. My chest felt like someone had sat on it. I didn't even have to guess. The dealership was the same one from the glossy Suburban brochure. The timing lined up. The desperation lined up. It was her. I called immediately. She picked up after 1 ring like she'd been waiting by the phone. Daniel, she said, all syrup and no shame. Did you apply for a car loan using my information? Silence. Then that sigh. Long. Theatrical. like I was the one being difficult. They needed a cosigner. It was just the inquiry. You used my social security number without permission. Don't be dramatic, she snapped. I wasn't being dramatic. I was being legally accurate. That's identity theft, Mom. I'm your mother, she said like that made it legal. That doesn't make it right, I said, pacing now. And it sure as hell doesn't make it legal. Her tone turned sharp. So what? You're gonna call the cops on me? I paused. That's where old Daniel would have caved. Would have started negotiating. Would have asked her to please fix it quietly. But old Daniel had spent over a decade funding her life like it was a timeshare he couldn't escape. New Daniel was done. Yes, I said. She gave one short laugh, more bark than chuckle. You wouldn't. I'm already on my way to the police station. Her voice cracked. Daniel, I didn't raise you to be this cold. I stopped walking. And I didn't agree to have my credit ruined because you can't live within your means. I hung up. Didn't wait for the guilt. Didn't wait for the tears. I grabbed my keys, my folder of receipts, and I drove to the Cleveland Police District on Payne Avenue. I sat in a vinyl chair under fluorescent lights, waiting for my name to be called, while a guy 2 seats over watched TikToks at full volume. When it was my turn, I stepped up to the desk, hands clammy. The officer's name was Hernandez. He had kind eyes and a face that said he'd heard worse. Do you know who applied for the loan? He asked. Yes, I said. My mother. He didn't flinch. Do you want to file a report for identity theft? My throat was dry. I felt like a traitor and a survivor at the same time. Yes, I said. He nodded, started typing. As I watched his fingers fly across the keyboard, I realized something. This wasn't about punishment. It was about protection. Because if she could cross this line, she could cross worse ones. And this time, I needed the line to hold. Sunday morning, I called Kingman Chevrolet and asked for the finance manager. A guy named Darren picked up, all fake friendly and caffeine hyped. Hey there, what can I do for you? This is Daniel M. I need you to cancel a loan application submitted yesterday using my name and social security number. It was unauthorized. Darren got quiet. Okay, let me pull it up. I waded through the clack of keys and one overly chipper jingle about President's Day sales. Yeah, I see it, he finally said. Cosigner application on a 2026 Suburban. That's you? No, I said. That's someone pretending to be me. Oh, got it. So you want us to kill the app? Immediately. And I need written confirmation. Email it. Today. He promised he would. I got the email 10 minutes later. I saved it straight into the Cindy Receipts folder. I even renamed the file, fraud_cancellation_Chevy. PDF. Then I sent a single text, just one sentence, to my mom, Aunt Regina, and cousin Mallory. Do not contact my clients, employer, or use my information. I filed a police report for identity theft after an unauthorized car loan application in my name. No hi. No explanation. Just the boundary in writing. The replies started pouring in like popcorn in a microwave. Mallory. Daniel, this is way too far. Aunt Regina. She's your mother. You didn't have to make it public. Mom, how dare you? I gave you life. I didn't respond. I wasn't going to explain to people who were more outraged by the report than by the crime. I called Mark Feldman, the real estate attorney who helped me close my first duplex. Calm, methodical guy with a voice like a courtroom podcast. I need a formal cease and desist, I told him. No credit use, no contact with my clients, and no financial access of any kind. And send it certified. He didn't ask why, just said, will do. That afternoon, I drove to First Liberty Bank and sat with a branch manager named Kia who had lavender nails and zero interest in drama. I need to close a joint account, I said, and make sure it can't be reopened without me. She pulled it up, confirmed my name was still on the old Bill's account, and said, any concerns about unauthorized access? I nodded. Yes. She didn't flinch, just printed the paperwork, closed the account, and gave me the final statement. I folded it neatly and slipped it into my folder. Another receipt for the pile. Then I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. Set up fraud alerts. Put identity monitoring on my phone. Because I knew my mom. When she couldn't get money the front doorway, she'd start looking for windows to crawl through. And I was sealing all of them shut. The first week without sending money felt weird. Not good. Not bad. Just foreign. Like walking on a leg you forgot was broken. I'd wake up every morning and instinctively check my phone, expecting chaos. Overdrafts, bounce payments, Missed calls stacked like unpaid bills. But there was silence. No Target emergency. No call me right now texts. No panic about bills I didn't even know were due. My nervous system, so used to crisis management, didn't know what to do with itself. Until Thursday. That's when I got the final test. It was 4:26 p.m. I was watching a walkthrough video from a drone photographer I'd hired for a new listing. My phone buzzed. A knock at my door. I opened it, and there she was. Cindy, my mother, holding a store-bought vanilla sheet cake with the words, "We can talk," written in red icing like a passive-aggressive truce offering. She wore her church coat. Hair curled. Eyes red. Practiced. A performance. "I baked," she said. I glanced at the plastic container. "You didn't." She blinked. The smile cracked. "Can we just talk?" I didn't move. "About what?" She stepped forward like she still had ownership of my space. "I'm your mother. That used to be a key. Now it was just a fact. I got a letter from your lawyer," she added. "Is that really how you want this to go?" I wanted to stop, I said. "The loans. The guilt. The constant need. I want separation." She scoffed. "So, what? You think you're better than me now?" I sighed. "I think I'm separate from you. And I'm allowed to be." Her voice cracked. "So you want me to drown?" "No," I said. "I want you to manage your finances like an adult. Sell the Suburban. Get a roommate. Cut expenses." She looked around my place, her eyes scanning like a tax assessor with an axe to grind. "You forgot where you came from." That line used to gut me. Now it just made me tired. "I came from a place where love had a price tag," I said quietly. "But I don't live there anymore." Her expression twisted. "So that's it? You're done?" "I'm not available," I said. Not angry. Not cruel. Just done. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the person standing in the doorway. Then, without a word, she set the cake down on my porch like an offering to a god that had stopped answering prayers. I closed the door. Didn't slam it. Didn't lock it dramatically. Just closed it. Behind me, my phone buzzed again. A notification from Equifax. Credit freeze confirmed. No one would be opening anything in my name again. Especially not her. By week 3, the dust had mostly settled. No more surprise knocks. No more cryptic prayer posts. Even the guilt texts had slowed down. Though Aunt Regina did send me one of those chain prayers that ended with "send this to 7 people you love or face 7 years of hardship." Subtle. I ignored it. Instead, I threw myself into work. I sold a 2-bedroom colonial in Shaker Heights, closed on a duplex in Lakewood, and helped a nervous newlywed couple buy their first home near the zoo. Every time I got a commission direct deposited straight into my account, it felt like a small rebellion. But it wasn't the money that changed everything. It was what I noticed when the noise was finally gone. I had time. Mental space. The silence was no longer scary. It was clean. My phone didn't buzz with demands. My inbox wasn't a to-do list written in someone else's voice. And I got to choose what to do with my money. Scene 1. Tuesday, 7:10 a.m. Sitting at my kitchen counter in Tremont. I opened my bank app with coffee in hand and saw my paycheck. Clean. Untouched. Mine. I stared at the number like it was a magic trick. Then I paid my rent. My insurance. My student loan. In 10 minutes. No panic. No guilt. I even had money left over to put into savings. Actual savings. Scene 2. Saturday afternoon. I took my buddy's kid Caleb to Mitchell's Ice Cream because I promised him a scoop after I sold his mom's condo. He picked double chocolate with extra sprinkles, then looked at me and said, "You must be rich." I laughed. "I'm not." "You have money for ice cream," he said with a shrug. And that hit me harder than it should have. Because for years, I had money. I just didn't have access to it. Not really. It all went into that Bill's account like a sacrificial offering. I was working full-time to fund someone else's lifestyle and getting nothing but stress and shame in return. That comment from Caleb? That was the first time in a long time I felt like a person again. Like a man with choices. Not a walking ATM in a nice blazer. The final twist didn't come until week 4. I got a letter in the mail. Certified. Thick envelope. Return address. A law office in Parma. For a second, I thought maybe she was suing me. But no. It was a response. My cease and desist had been reviewed by her lawyer. She'd agreed, in writing, not to use my name, my credit, or contact my clients or employer. A boundary, finally respected. I took that letter, slipped it into my folder marked Cindy Receipts, and snapped it shut. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt free. 3 months later, everything feels lighter. I still sell houses. I still juggle weird client requests and deal with people who think staging a bathroom means adding 6 decorative towels. But now I do it without that background hum of dread, without checking my phone every 10 minutes for a crisis I didn't cause. And I sleep. I didn't realize how little I'd been sleeping until I started waking up rested, not haunted by mortgage due dates and passive-aggressive Facebook posts. My credit? Clean. My finances? Untangled. My mind? Finally my own. Cindy doesn't message me anymore. Oh, she still posts cryptic little one-liners online. Things like some people forget who loved them first, or God sees all, even ungrateful hearts. But she's not tagging me. She's not calling. She's not using my identity to test drive SUVs she can't afford. And I don't take the bait. That cake she left on my porch? I threw it out. Didn't even open the lid. The old me would have cut a slice out of guilt. Would have let her back in for the sake of peace. But peace you have to pay for isn't peace. It's ransom. A few weeks ago, I ran into my old high school buddy Nate at a gas station. He asked how things were. Said he saw my name on a sign out front of a listing near his mom's place. Dude, he said, laughing, your mom's still roasting you on Facebook or what? I smiled. She's moved on to scripture and inspirational memes. Nice, he said. You okay though? I thought about it. Then I said, yeah, actually, I'm good. He nodded. Did that guy thing where we both pretended that wasn't a deep emotional moment, and we talked about football for 5 minutes. But it was true. I am good. Because I learned something through all of this. Help is a choice, not a contract. Love isn't a bill. And access to me, my time, my money, my name, is a privilege, not a family right. I don't hate my mom. I just don't fund her anymore. And I'm not available for anything less than respect. That's the boundary. That's the peace. And this time, it's not for sale.